I mean, who doesn't like to go out into the desert and take a bunch of drugs?
I don't even know what I'm doing here.
Hi there, my name is Chris, this is Late Listening, and today I'm talking about Kyuss and the Circus Leaves Town, which came out 30 years ago in the year 1995. On this channel I have been doing a series on albums that came out in 1995 that are turning 30, and this is today's selection. I feel like if you've never heard this album before, it's a great album, or a pretty good album, but for longtime fans, it's uneven, or it's their least favorite of Kyuss's catalog, or sometimes has some of their favorite songs on it. So, very divisive, wildly different opinions about this record. No one can agree. It's as divisive as going to the circus. But seriously, what do you think? Is it swaggering toward the western sunset, its gun still smoking? Or is it stumbling drunkenly through the desert dusk trying to find the keys to the van high as fuck? I mean, if I was making a playlist for a DMT desert adventure, probably half of these songs would go on the playlist. Maybe. I love the mix of this album. I love the way the bass is pushed way forward and like all the mid-range is like really far forward and then the vocals are pushed way back. Like poor John Garcia. Sometimes he's like barely audible back there, just lost in the muddy mix. And despite the lack of cohesion, I mean, it's a pretty good record, you know? I don't know. This album has a weird quality. Like, speaking of the muddy production, there's a lot of records that I like that have kind of weird, distortion or muddy production. Like, I'm just going to list off a bunch of random albums here. Failures Magnified, as well as Fantastic Planet. Hum's You'd Prefer an Astronaut. One of the muddiest records of all time, one of the muddiest mainstream records of all time, Tool's Anima. Very muddy, very interesting album. Coming soon to this channel, Starflyer 59, the first two records, and also maybe Americana as well, especially Gold and Silver. That one's upside down. Could you tell? Coming soon. And then, of course, grunge. A lot of great grunge bands have really muddy sounding albums. Tad, Soundgarden's early work. And one of my very favorite bands, Boris, the Japanese band Boris. A lot of Boris's, especially their early work, Amplifier Worship. This is Akuma no Uta. Fantastic record. I like the fact that sometimes production can be like an instrument. It can really set the atmosphere. Sometimes there's no production at all, like Steve Albini style. But then sometimes there's the weird, the fuzz and the layers of guitars and the Dandy Warhols too, like Nietzsche. The Melvins Houdini also great muddy record. Sleep's Holy Mountain as well. Like sometimes those albums become classics partly just because of like the weird enveloping noise that just kind of carries you away. What was I talking about? It's undeniable that Circus, I'm just going to say Circus because the title is long and I'm lazy. It is undeniable that Circus is a very strange record for Kyuss. I mean, if you look at Kyuss's career, like from the first EP to Wretch, they're like so feral and heavy. And then they transformed into Subterranean Earth Movers for Blues for the Red Sun. And then they jammed out so hard that they launched themselves into a totally new dimension with the vertiginous Welcome to Sky Valley. Such a phenomenal album. Which is not to say that this album is lacking in atmosphere or that it's not like spaced out. I mean, it is spaced out, but like in a much weirder way. While Kyuss could be accused of being unfocused on some of their previous albums, like emphasizing jams and like very long stretched out songs, I think it fits the atmosphere. Like they're called stoner metal for a reason. It's like this heavy, massive asteroid that's just kind of blissfully drifting and droning and floating in the black void, But this album is unfocused in a totally different way. And I think that has to do with the songwriting, probably due to the lineup change. There was a massive shift in the band right before they started recording this record. Issues had erupted between Josh Homme, the guitarist, and Brant Bjork, the drummer, and Bjork had ended up leaving the band. And it was a huge loss because he was one of the core songwriters of the band. And so it was a huge loss for Kyuss. So they lost Bjork, and they brought in their friend Alfredo Hernandez to take over drumming duties. Alfredo Hernandez from the band Across the River. He was in Across the River with Scott Reeder, the bass player. And also he played with Yawning Man, and that's important to remember because of track number 10, Catamaran. And Hernandez has a pretty cool style. I like his drumming. He and Bjork are completely different drummers. And I like the fact that track 1, Hurricane, begins with his drums, kind of showcases him, and it's like, he's the newest addition, and they give him the first word. It's pretty cool. And another fundamental difference is that Hernandez was not a songwriter. And, when Brant Bjork left, he left a huge hole in the band because he would write as many songs as Homme did. And they had to fill that gap. And so you can really feel that on a lot of these songs. This is a completely different Kyuss than it used to be. The band had already experienced the departure of Nick Oliveri before the Welcome to Sky Valley sessions. And so they were already kind of becoming a different band. The rhythm section was shifting. And as Homme was taking total control for this record, they were really evolving into something else. You can really hear a lot of proto-Queens of the Stone Age on this album because Homme was really directing the band away from their old sound and towards something that he wanted to do, which he would later realize with Queens of the Stone Age. So in order to fill the hole left by losing one songwriter, vocalist John Garcia stepped up, and he actually wrote the single 1 Inch Man. And that song received some airplay on MTV and a little bit on the radio. Garcia also wrote or co-wrote Hurricane, I think, and Gloria Lewis, for sure Gloria Lewis. And while those songs are straightforward rockers, Gloria Lewis kind of pales in comparison to Kyuss's earlier work. Not such a big fan of that song. I like Hurricane a lot. Like, all of these songs are pretty repetitive, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Hurricane, I think it benefits from the repetition, and 1 Inch Man as well. But Gloria Lewis, after 4 minutes of basically no changes in the riff and the lyrics being what they are, I kind of get a little tired of that song. This album is pretty much, I can listen to it all the way through, but I have a tendency to skip Gloria Lewis. And I'm not really sure speaking of Gloria Lewis, is it Homme doing the weird kind of falsetto part? I know John Garcia is singing, but is John Garcia singing with 2 voices, or is that Homme doing the falsetto? I couldn't really figure it out. I've never been able to figure it out. Anyway, whoever's singing in the falsetto voice is kind of ripping off themselves. Kyuss is ripping off themselves because it sounds like the melody from Demon Cleaner. It's so similar, and Demon Cleaner is one of the best Kyuss songs. I love that song. That's an example of great repetition in a song because it's got that really repetitious groove. All of the parts come back around, but it's like trance-inducing. It's hypnotic, and it's so freaking catchy. It's such a great song. Whereas Gloria Lewis, I feel like, is the other side of that, where it's it is very repetitious. It locks into a groove, but then without any changes and with lyrics that are kind of meh. It just doesn't really go anywhere. It's not a bad song. It's just not really what you want from Kyuss. Demon Cleaner is an example of the amazing machine that Kyuss once was, and Gloria Lewis is an example of the machine breaking down, and you can really feel the absence of a killer songwriter. You needed a mechanic to come in and kind of fix things up a little bit. Maybe they needed a producer to come in and help him out. Chris Goss, he's a good producer, but I don't think he had any say in the actual songwriting process. He just was there for the recordings. So. And speaking of songwriters, as I mentioned, the song Catamaran was brought in by Alfredo Hernandez. That was, he had performed that with Yawning Man. I think he wrote that. There's been some really cool live performances on YouTube. If you've never heard of Yawning Man, you should check them out. They're really, really cool. I'll put a link in the description to one of my favorite ones. Yeah, Catamaran features this really unique guitar. It's less distorted, and it's kind of almost sounds like a jam band. And it has this like kind of relaxed vibe, and it's the same kind of thing as like the song Phototropic. That kind of feel where it's like, it's kind of starts kind of slow, and then it just really like amps up for the chorus, like the extreme quiet loud dynamic. The only thing is that like with Phototropic, I absolutely love the chorus, whereas Catamaran, like I feel like the verses are great, but the chorus, I don't know, it's good. I like Yawning, man. I'm not really sure what doesn't work for me about the chorus of Catamaran. Like, it's not like I don't like it. I just feel like, I guess it kind of almost feels like two songs mashed together. Maybe that's why. There's kind of like a disconnect between the verses and the chorus. It feels kind of strange. It's saved by the cool guitar and those verses. I really like the dynamics of Catamaran for sure. Josh Homme has said, records are really an expression of where you're at emotionally. That real time, there's a sonic photograph. And if this album is a photograph, that's a pretty fucked up picture right there. To put it kindly, this is Kyuss's most eclectic record. Let's just say that. To put it harshly, it sounds like Queens of the Stone Age trying to be born from a psychedelic psilocybin womb. I like how some of the titles are like a little more humorous than on the previous albums. The first instrumental, The Old Boozeroonie. When I was underage and drinking constantly, I often referred to alcohol as the old boozeroonie. Or people would ask me why I was hungover, and I'd say like, it's the old boozeroonie. It's not like the previous records didn't have like humorous songs. I mean, Welcome to Sky Valley has Supa Scoopa and Mighty Scoop. Or even like Space Cadet or something. How about Wretch? Son of a bitch. But this one has a lot like more goofy ones like El Rodeo. Well, I'm not sure if that's supposed to be funny. But Tangy Zizzle sounds suspiciously sexy, especially with that intro.
Yeah, that's what I like about you, baby. You're always on time.
And then there's Jumbo Blimp Jumbo, which is a terrible name for a pretty good song. Again, that's an instrumental song. I wonder why they put these instrumental songs on here, if they didn't have time to put lyrics on, or they just decided they wanted to have instrumentals. I feel like either of these songs could have had vocals on them. But yeah, The Old Boozeroonie, I really like it just as an instrumental. Jumbo Blimp Jumbo, I feel like could have vocals, and it would actually maybe be a little bit stronger. I just finished making a video about the band Pellmell and the album Interstate. And this is a really fantastic instrumental record. I'm just going to hype my other video here because if you like instrumental bands, Pellmell doesn't sound anything like Kyuss, but if you're an eclectic listener, maybe check them out. I feel like these kinds of instrumental songs influenced bands like Pelican or Russian Circles or some of those later bands that would come along with really awesome, heavy instrumental songs and no vocalist. So anyway, I wonder why there's like these more humorous names of songs. Maybe it's because they're having fun in the studio. Kyuss, for the first time ever, had money to make a record. They went to Sound City, where Nirvana recorded Nevermind, and Rage Against the Machine's debut, and Tool's Undertow, Grateful Dead's Terrapin Station. So many great albums were recorded at Sound City Studios. But I'm not sure if they were really having that much fun, or maybe they were just high as fuck. Like, because obviously they broke up basically as they were making, pretty much right after making this record. Within a year they were broken up. So tensions were high, and they were high, and yeah. Thinking about the band, like basically breaking up as they were making this, I made another video about Sunny Day Real Estate's Pink record, LP2. And, they also basically broke up as they were making that album. And so I feel like Kyuss's Circus and LP2, the Pink album, kind of share that in common. Like, this album is much more realized. The Pink album is much more raw, and Jeremy Enyak didn't even hardly write lyrics, or he just sang like scratch vocals for several of the songs. This album feels like an album. It doesn't feel unfinished. But at the same time, it's not as cohesive, and I wonder about those instrumentals, or like why there's so many whoas in Tangy Zizzle when like there could have been actual lyrics there. I wonder if they didn't have enough time or enough. They kind of knew they were ending. I mean, look at the name of the record, and the circus leaves town. It really sounds like a goodbye. And why did both the Pink Album and Circus have songs referencing rodeos? Why? That's a weird coincidence, isn't it? Speaking of El Rodeo, that's track number 6. That begins with a 2-minute intro that sounds like a Primus song. Like, the first time I heard that, I was like, is Primus on this song? And then after 2 minutes, it switches and it sounds like a song off of Wretch, their first record, which is a compliment. I don't mean that as a bad thing. It's just very odd. You go from this like wacky, like circus-like Primus intro, long intro, and then switch to, Wretch style. The final track on here, track 11, Spaceship Landing, also begins with a cool drum intro. Hernandez again kind of echoing Hurricane. So the very first song and the very last song both have those cool drum intros. And I felt like that kind of brought the whole track list like full circle in a way. So Spaceship Landing is an 11-minute fucked up fuzzy jam that becomes really epic. But for all 11 minutes, I mean, it's awesome. I never get tired of it. You don't feel weary by the end of it. Which is not to say that the band members themselves probably didn't feel weary by the end of recording this album. But yeah, maybe the spaceship's landing coming down to beam us all away and take us all to a new place. The circus is leaving town after all. And then there are 2 hidden tracks, even though one is just a pure joke. At 14 minutes and 43 seconds, My Idea, Medea comes in. I'll save you the trouble of trying to look it up. It just sounds like this. And then there is another hidden track at the end, a couple minutes long, that is very beautiful and very sad. And that's called Day One. And that is dedicated to Chris Novoselic and Dave Grohl. And it's about the suicide of Kurt Cobain and what do you do when you lose a friend and how do you move on. And even though this song is kind of slow and beautifully kind of melancholy, it's somehow uplifting. And it also kind of weirdly sounds like a Nirvana song in a way. I can't really figure out exactly why. But yeah, it's a beautiful little meditation there at the end of the album.
The sun will break the night till dawn, and then the day.
I just wanted to make a little video about Kyuss. I'm trying to make as many videos as I can before I get busy again. I've made a bunch of videos about albums that came out in 1995 that are all turning 30 years old. If you're interested in the 90s and obscure bands and major bands and other artists, check some of them out. And let me know what you think about this record. Which side of the fault line are you on? Do you love this record? Do you hate this record? Is it somewhere in between? Yeah, I guess I'm somewhere in between. But I do like this record a lot. I don't think I absolutely love it. Not as much as other Kyuss records. I can never decide between Welcome to Sky Valley and Blues for the Red Sun. Like, both of those albums are just absolute masterpieces. But I listen to this a lot. I do. And The Circus Leaves Town is a solid goodbye to Kyuss and to everything that they were. And, it's also an interesting bridge between this period of Josh Homme's career and what became Queens of the Stone Age. If you've never heard Kyuss before, check them out. They're an awesome band, and their music will live forever. So, yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again. Peace.